And we're live. We should be live. And let's don't save that. Here we are. It is the Age of Antiquity map. It is mapping a movie madness with Jack Mondays. Hi, Jack.
Hello, my dear.
And I'm just going to be pottering around on this Age of Antiquity map right here. Let's just get the old touch enabled. My objective is to finish the outside edge, get all of our farms done. That's a bit of an effort. I'm going to start by just resizing this frame to fit, and I think I'm going to turn off. Did I do that on my trace layer? I did. I'm going to turn off my trace layer while we work. Alright. And Brian's already in the chat. Brian, welcome.
Hello, Brian.
I want to know how it went, Brian, at North Texas. I don't think you and I have spoken since. There we go. Brian says 5,000 more squares. 5,000 more squares. Oh, and I need to turn off my Discord running in the background, because otherwise people are just going to hear bleep, bloop, bleep, bloop throughout, and that's just going to get annoying. Yeah, so Brian, tell me how it went. I saw photographs of you there, young man.
Yeah, how was it? Sad not being there, but, you know. He says he had a crazy Star Trek game on Friday.
What made it crazy? And actually, because you were there this time just as a regular attendee, right? You weren't, like, I think you were doing a little bit of helping out in the stalls and stuff, but that wasn't your job this time, so you managed to actually just get some good solid gaming in, which is nice.
I apologize if you said this already, but is that that's the map's border?
This is going to be the map's border. Yep.
Very cool. Very cool.
I did this on the Rikadon on the Lokatoy maps, and I'm going to be doing something very similar on this one. It was funny, the client sent me this pattern and said something like this, and I was like, well, it just so happens I have a completed version of that, so I got you covered, boo.
Nice. So Brian says the chemistry of the players was way off, but we held it together with only one player walked away.
Oh, what?
Oh, interesting.
Wait, what? The chemistry of the players was off to a point where one player walked away.
Only one, at least. At least the whole table didn't say we're done with this. But yeah, that sounds.
I feel like I need to know more. That's
missing context. Yes, citation needed.
Like, wow. Like, I don't think I've ever had a group where the player dynamics was so... I don't think I've ever had a group where someone's walked away. I've had one war game where a player disappeared partway through, but he was just being a very self-righteous individual at the wargaming table, and he didn't like the way that it was going against his side, so he had a hissy fit. But role-playing, I've never had anyone do that.
Yeah, at conventions, I've even been part of games where I wasn't having fun for whatever it was. Maybe it was somebody at the table, maybe it was the scenario, but I don't recall ever just leaving because of a situation like that. Interesting. He's saying that it's he'll have to tell the story in person. Okay.
Alright, no worries. I'll keep it to that.
So it doesn't seem like so. For those of you in the chat or listening to this on the rewatch, the replay,
on the YouTubes,
Alyssa and I were talking. We started bringing up a conversation about the fact that E3 is going on and how neither one of us has really been paying attention to what's been going on. And obviously, she and I are both big into games and gaming and that type of thing. And so I decided that you know what, let's hold off on this, talk about it. Let's save it for when we're on camera and see if anybody else is interested or maybe even has some information to chime in on. And and I decided to fire up some little things that so sprinkled throughout the stream today. I'll be making note of things that may have been announced at E3 or things of that nature. But one of the ones that we were curious about was the fact that Bethesda's Starfield is going to be using Bethesda's new engine, which they're calling the Creation Engine 2. And we both were like, oh wow, Bethesda's finally updating their engine. And so I took it upon myself to see if I could get any information about that. And it seems like currently there's not a lot of information about it because they literally just announced it like a day or two ago. They did it in conjunction with Starfield's announcement teaser trailer, and this quote from Bethesda is in regards to Starfield, but it's in this next generation role-playing game set amongst the stars. Create any character you would want and explore with unparalleled freedom, harnessing the power of next-gen technology and built on the all-new Creation Engine 2. Starfield takes you on a journey through space as you strive to answer humanity's greatest mystery. Where are the tacos? Yes. So that's. I mean, it doesn't sound like that they were really talking too much about the engine itself. But cool.
No, I think that's really cool. I mean, I pretty much written Bethesda completely off. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like the way that they've taken the company. I'm not a fan of the debacle that was Fallout 76. I feel they've been taking the piss a lot and continue to do so when they get on stage and start mocking, the quality of their own game and how it affects people that buy their titles. Right. And Fallout 4 was 4 was that had a big. It just started to reveal a lot of the flaws. But I will be honest with you, some of the flaws I feel are company based. The fact that they're monetizing mods and that type of thing. Right. The whole workshop just reselling assets that they've already developed for their previous games, and now you're going to charge me $10 for a skin. I feel like it's taking the piss. There was a big, huge backlash over horse armor in Oblivion, and they'd come back X amount of years later and they start selling you a fucking cowboy hat, for Christ's sake. And that shit pisses me off, like, big time. And that's never going to go away. But my other gripe was the fact that they were on this old engine. And I don't want to be like some kind of snob or anything like that, but I started to see big flaws in this old engine because it just couldn't keep up. Even if you just point to the AI and how terrible that is, I can actually let that slide to a large degree. But the movements and the interactions of the NPCs, and by default the sheer lack of them, because like the engine can't run too much, it started to. I started to see the cracks appear. Right. So the fact that they're doing a new engine at least addresses, if I'm going to be fair, part of why I fell out of love with Bethesda. So, right. I mean, that's a good thing, right? That's got to be a good thing.
Yeah, totally.
Hey, Jennifer Glazer is here, and if she's here, that means that she's not watching Skeeter and Zach and their recap. I will take that as a victory.
Well, and she might be like, well, I was there. I don't need to recap.
This is true.
Thanks for popping over and say hi.
It's always great to see the Jen.
So Brian did talk a little bit about the thing. Let's see. See, it was my first in-person game since Salt Lake City Comic Con. When was that, right? But the scenario really was really good. A few adjustments here and there, and it should be a published adventure.
Ooh, okay.
That was in regards to that Star Trek. And Jennifer says, "Shh, I just slid over here." LOL.
Well, you know, it's a shame that they always seem to do their show when I'm streaming, because I really wanted to ask what happened with Skeeter one time, because he shut down the small publishing stand. And I really wanted to know more about that.
Oh, at this most recent convention
Yes.
that you shut it down?
Yes.
Really?
Something happened, and I don't know what it is, and I don't want to just go like gossiping off behind his back. And so I wanted to be on the show. I wanted to say, so what was up with the small business panel this year? Or not the panel, the booth or something.
Yeah.
I heard someone pissed him off. Something happened, and Skeeter was not a happy camper. And I think Skeeter not happy. That's a thing.
Well, Jen, if you know, maybe you could give us the deets. Oh, Brian, so 2016, 2017. Wow, that was your last in-person game since Salt Lake City Comic Con, which was 4 years.
Because I think Brian tends to attend these things as a vendor, like what we saw him at North Texas, right, a couple of years ago. But he was on the booth.
Right. And I think at the time I didn't know who you were, so it was probably one of those things where this was probably like, "This is Brian." And I was probably like, "Hey, how you doing?" I haven't met you. I haven't, and that was before I was hanging out with her online on your streams and stuff.
And Jennifer, just to be clear, I don't really know the details, but I don't think it was a seminar. I think it was the actual booth, the small publisher booth. But I didn't want to write to him and say, so what up with that? Because it seemed like I was prying. So I'm just hoping that like information drops off the trees or something.
Yeah, because I had heard that the seminar went really well. Like, if I remember correctly, he even did a post, like, after the seminar was done. He was like, "That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of shit that I love doing."
I missed that post. I gotta be honest with you, Facebook is doing one of those things where I actually see no Skeeter stuff now.
Oh, really?
And I love fucking Skeeter. I'm commenting on his stuff all of the time. And, yep, the Facebook is like, yeah, no, you see too much of him now.
Yeah, I actually remember it was a couple of months ago. I still don't see any of his posts, but my friend James Solt, I don't see any of his posts. I don't think I ever have. And it was like a couple months ago. No, it wasn't. It was like December, so like 6 months ago. I was like, does he even post on Facebook, or does he just come in just to like, see what other? No, it was one of those things where it looked like he posted at least, once a day or once, a couple times a week, and I was sitting there like, damn, I never see his stuff, like ever.
What, Salt?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he posts pretty regularly.
Yeah, I never see his stuff, ever. Jen says she'll have to check with Skeeter, and she worked his booth. Oh, and Brian said he wanted to go to his seminar, but his Star Wars game was at the same time. Which Star Wars system? Like what game system was it that you played it? Let's see here. Yeah, there is a Reddit article going back to E3 and the Creation Engine 2. Not necessarily E3 in general, but just the Creation Engine 2. They have like there's this really big post where this person they've tried to break it down into information that they know or have speculated about the Creation Engine 2, and it's like about like there's a section where there's information about like the general information, visuals, graphics, and rendering, shadows, lighting, animation, physics, all that kind of thing. A lot of it, unfortunately, is all just speculation. And they do say up at the top that supposedly they've gotten some information from an insider. But this is like a humongous Reddit thread, and a lot of the sections are marked as speculation. So I don't know if I'm gonna go into it. But let me see if I can find any insider info. Hello, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Okay, cool, Brian. West End Games First Edition. Nice. Original.
And Tarnished Knight as well.
You fought. Hello. You fought the Predator? Whoa, wait. In Star Wars? That's crazy. Like Predator. Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator. I used a force point to attack it 5 times in a row. It ran out of dodges and I smoked it. Wow. Nice.
Yeah. So Alex, Vection and Tarnished, we're talking E3 stuff. We're talking about the new creation engine by Bethesda. Although we're not talking about all of the speculation, just the fact that they're doing one, which is nice.
See, Tarnished Knight says, we fought the Predator in 2nd edition Star Wars. There's a D6 version of them for Star Wars. Oh, no, wait, but then he corrected Shadowrun. Fought a version of the Predator in that somebody made for Shadowrun. All right, so I guess there's speaking of the NPCs you had brought up in regards to Bethesda titles. I guess that's something that there has been either public knowledge out there or some of the insider info that they're brought up. But supposedly, the new engine will be able to have a lot more NPCs on screen. You'll be able to see entire cities filled with lots and lots of NPCs on screen. They're saying that it might not be. They don't believe it's going to be in the direction of cyberpunk. So I don't know what that means. Radiant AI will make a return.
What's Radiant AI?
I actually don't know. And be more advanced than in previous games. So Radiant AI must be something from Creation Engine 1. Let me see if I can figure it out. They're gonna use voice modulation technology for NPCs in order to give NPCs you can use a dozen voice actors, but they can all sound different.
That's what they did with Cyberpunk. That's the first time I heard of that. Although, honestly, if they're saying, there's something about the Cyberpunk model that they're not doing, I'm kind of okay with that, because I was pretty disappointed with the Cyberpunk model. It didn't live up to the hype at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very... Yeah, there was a lot of people walking around, but they were either static in animation, or fixed place. There was nothing meaningful with it. There was just a lot of models around doing animations.
Right. So I guess Radiant AI is the thing that Bethesda initially developed for their for the Creation Engine 1, which is the NPCs interacting with the world and doing shit when you're not necessarily interacting with them. So them walking around, talking with each other, interacting with items in the world, that type of thing. So it sounds like they definitely use their first engine as their skeleton, and it seems like they've tried to make it better, but I don't know, we'll have to see. Yeah, there doesn't seem like there's anything concrete at the moment. That's That's unfortunate. They're probably going to keep it to themselves for a while too. This game doesn't release till November of next year. Good lord.
What? Star Citizen?
Starfield.
Starfield. I was going to say Star Citizen. That won't be out. Yeah, but I mean, that will be a big hit for them. That's going to cause a massive sensation when that releases. It just will, because it's Bethesda. I won't be taking a week off work for it, though.
No. We know how much Todd Howard likes Skyrim, the little smug little shit. Supposedly, he's on record for saying it's going to be our Skyrim in space. So, all right, good for you, Todd. You're a bastard. Forest Roads, good evening.
Hey, Forest.
Tarnished Knight. It was a Banderstanch. Banderstanch? What are we talking about?
I think the thing that was in Shadowrun or something.
Ah, okay. Okay, so let's see. So Brian says his Star Wars one was run by Jay Shields. It's where that picture in North Texas RPG Con Facebook group is from. Okay. Then Alex says Bethesda has made a new game engine. Really? Probably got sick of the jokes. Yeah, I know, right?
That was one of the things that came out of E3.
And then Forrest wants to know if you had happened to see any of the Photoshop stuff he put in the Maps channel on Discord.
No. No, I didn't. I will definitely check them out. I would bring Discord up now and check it, but the blip annoys me, and it's definitely not something I want to have on the channel. Thank you for telling me about that. I will check that out.
Nice, Gary. Nice. Okay, so going to a page that says 6 of the coolest games from the PC gaming show at E3. Okay, so this is, I guess, 3 things. I don't know. These look silly. These don't look like our cup of tea. Let's scroll down past that one. Scroll down past that one. Scroll down past that one. Oh, I guess we got some footage for Tiny Tina's Wonderland. Everybody was like, when they announced that there's going to be it was like untitled Tiny Tina thing for Borderlands. Everyone was like, basically like, oh, because the last DLC for Borderlands with Tiny Tina was so good because it was like a D&D game that, I mean, it was so popular and did so well that no duh, they're doing another one. Well, I guess supposedly it's a standalone spin-off game, and it's literally like, I mean, yeah, you're basically playing like D&D or whatever, except you're actually playing fantasy characters, and you actually have crazy customization, and you use and there's like magic and stuff, and so it actually is a completely standalone game, supposedly. So I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Okay, so honest question. Do we really give a shit about Borderlands anymore? And I know they're doing a film and all the rest of it.
I was okay with the third one. We were actually playing that pretty regularly, and it was one of those things where we suddenly had a oh look squirrel moment, and we got distracted by some other game and we just stopped. But I think we were enjoying it. But I don't know. It's like 2 was its peak, I think, at least for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
1 was great. 2 was better, including all the DLCs. I thought they were all fantastic. And then the pre-sequel was meh. And so, I don't know, it kind of meh me on the whole thing. And then a lot of time went by before 3 came out, but that's kind of what happens with games, especially if they're trying to make it different, make it work. And what I experienced personally, from playing 3, I was really enjoying. I was really liking it. I felt like they had, it was certainly an improvement from the pre-sequel, but yeah, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. We were obsessed with Borderlands 2 when, back when we would play it all the time. But,
And Tarnished Knight says that he's never been really interested. Brian McWhirter is only like if there's like a keep on it. Clearly a keep on the Borderlands reference.
The Borderlands reference, yes indeed.
So I don't know. If I at some point I stopped caring. Like there was a stage where I even have a Claptrap behind me, right? There was a stage where Claptrap, the humor of the game, the characters, Tiny Tina, like nap time, like it really resonated. I could not get enough of it, but I'm kind of just, I don't know, a bit stale now.
See, Alex says the only actor / voice actor in the film that seems like it fits is going to be Jack Black as Claptrap.
Yeah, there have been some very interesting castings on that, and I'm not going to say the castings are bad or anything like that, but it's just interesting. Just interesting. Nothing. Again, nothing has really grabbed me and made me excited. And I agree, by the way, Forrest. I think IPs that they do obviously milk IPs into the ground. Yeah, they do. But I also feel like there are certain IPs. Okay, there are certain IPs that have kept my interest over multiple iterations, and then there are other IPs where I just get bored of it. Like there's a certain magic that gets lost, and I'm actually going to pick a completely different style of game: the Total War series. The Total War series, I would put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours into. And now I'm kind of bored of the format. Like, they announce a new Total War. I used to buy every single one. Every one. And play it into the ground. And even to this day, Empire, I would go back to. Or Shogun, to a degree. But, like, the format of it, there's something about it now that just bores the crap out of me. Like, I get a couple of turns in, and I'm just like, ugh, yawn fest. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is that kind of turned off.
Right. Forrest says the only Total War that they played was Warhammer, which is pretty fun.
Warhammer was pretty good. Jack and I actually played that in multiplayer for a while. We've actually played a few of them in multiplayer. We did the Rome 2. I want to say 2 or 3 times, Jack?
Definitely twice.
But yeah, we had a lot of fun with the Warhammer one. I personally love the Age of Musket Black Powder. So I had a lot of fun, especially with the ship battles and everything of Empire. God, I had a lot of fun with that. And then everything since has just been it. And like they did a Viking one or something, right? They did. I can't even tell you what it was called now. And I tried so hard to like that game, and it bored the crap out of me. Then they did the Greek one, the mini game, the mini sort of version of it, but it was it was the Battle of the Greek States, right. And I tried playing that, and that one bored me too. Like, hoplite formations and stuff. As a historian, I love that crap. The game left me cold. Just left me cold. And of course, they've done, was it Legends of the Five Rings or something? I think they did something based on that.
Not Legends of the Five Rings. It was the Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
Thank you.
It was actually Total War Three Kingdoms.
Like, I should be getting all kinds of jazzed about that, but no. It's almost like they're not deep enough for me or something. I need something more cerebral.
Yeah, those short ones that they do, like the mini ones, they call them Total War Saga games. So they did the Thrones of Britannia, and they did Troy. There's actually one that's coming out called Elysium. That would be interesting.
Yeah, and I don't mind the concept behind the sagas, like, at all. I think it's kind of a cool concept. But I didn't even get the Britain one at all, and the Troy one, because it was actually free on Epic, I think. It just bored the crap out of me. Just bored the crap out of me.
See, Tarnish says there's a funky game called Pathway on Steam. It's a top-down...
Hey, Julius! Sorry, Jack. Julius Shrubnell just dropped in.
Might be your thing if you can forgive the 8-bit graphics.
I don't do well with 8-bit graphics. I'm a snob.
I was about to say, fun fact, Alyssa does not like games that purposefully do the whole super retro look.
And Jack, why don't you answer Jen's question about how was our game on Saturday?
Well, we gotta have giant quotes around that. Our game on Saturday, so it was our first in-person meeting with our friends here in town that are our real-life friends, and there are, bi-weekly gaming group that we used to play with. And since the pandemic, this is the first time we hung out with them for gaming in 15 months. It's crazy town. We probably hung out all in all probably about 7 or 8 hours together, I would say.
Yeah.
In Toto.
Yeah.
About 6 hours of that was just bullshitting and chatting and just catching up. I mean, which is weird because it wasn't really like catching up because, we would still actually interact with them online. We would actually get on Zoom calls and, Discord hangouts, and we would actually play like computer games together, like multiplayer games. So it's like we were interacting with them regularly, but it was a different vibe. And so I would say the first 75% of our game, quote unquote, we didn't do anything. We just chatted and had fun and was having a great time hanging out with each other. But then the last about 2 hours of it, I would say, because we're playing the campaign of Masks of Nyarlathotep with Alyssa running. For Call of Cthulhu, and obviously Call of Cthulhu is very clue-based and note-taking based. We then spent the next 2 hours basically. Alyssa went from how the campaign began, and she pretty much gave a recap summary of the adventure so far, up to where we left it, and we were all kind of going through our notes and discussing the events and reminding ourselves what we did, what clues we had, where we were going, all of that thing, people that we had met, items that we had acquired, that type of thing. And so yeah, it was great. But yeah, it wasn't really a game day. Normally it's the almost inverse of that. Normally on like if we hang out for 8 hours, a good 6 hours of it, 6.5 hours of it is gaming, and the rest of it's bullshitting. But no, it's definitely flip-flopped because it was the first time we'd seen each other in person in 15 months. So.
But it was absolutely joyous to see all of our friends, and one of them cooked Cornish pasties that were literally this big. It was so ridiculous. But that was nice.
Yeah, as big
that was nice.
It was great.
And it was nice catching up with everyone from a game perspective, getting everyone set up for actually going to Egypt now, and they know why they're going to bloody Egypt, because everyone had forgotten. So it was a great catch-up day. Now, on the old 8-bit graphics thing, by the way, I don't know what it is about me, but sometimes, like, a game concept could seem so good, and sometimes Jack will be playing something and I will love the concept of the game and the purpose of the game. And I'm actually, this is not 8-bit graphics, but I'm just going to throw XCOM in there, right? And everything about it, I love. If you tell me about the, or take, honestly, Project Zomboid. Like, if you describe that game to me, I'd be, oh, hell yes, and I'd go off and buy it. But there are certain games where the graphics break it for me, and that sounds snobbish, and it's not intended to be that way. And a good one I can actually pick on is Final Fantasy VII.
Yep, I was going to bring that up.
Because I mean, of course, it's meant to be a fantastic game. All of the components of that game are something that I would absolutely love. I could not get past the old school graphics. And you're talking to someone who was playing games in the 80s while there was still freaking greater than signs dropping little periods onto, like, a single line runway. I played these Space Invaders back in the day in the Pongs, and remember the Superman game on the Atari? I played them. I enjoyed the shit out of them, and it's not even that I'm chasing graphics. I don't go off playing the latest Battlefields and things like that. They look freaking awesome. My tolerance for frames per second and graphic quality is actually pretty broad. It's very forgiving. And yet there's certain styles, artistic styles, that just don't press the buttons for me, like, at all. And 8-bit graphics it falls into that camp. I can't explain why. The nostalgia does not kick in for me.
Well, lucky for you with Final Fantasy VII is that they have they are doing the remakes, and the remake Part 1 is out. So whenever we can get ourselves a PlayStation 5, if you still are interested in experiencing the story, I mean, yes, it's been changed a little bit for the remake, but you can experience it. Forrest says best 8-bit graphic game that they've played is FTL, which I own but have never played. And Jeffrey Garrison says just arrived. Hello.
Hey, Jeffrey! I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you guys and girls can see what we're working on right here in all of its glory. I am determined, by the way, to have the ink work on this map done by next Sunday. This thing will be done partway through this month, so you're going to get to see it tonight and tomorrow, and then I'll do the rest of the work off camera, and then it's off into colouring. I think it's looking pretty damn sweet. We're super close on it. You'll probably see it again, actually, end of July, when I work on labels for this. The labels and the title, compass rose, that type of thing. Yeah, so Jack is a little quiet right now. Jeffrey, you're the first person to mention that, but I can believe it. So let me up Jack's volume just a little speck here. And hopefully the music won't be too loud. Let me know if the music is drowning him out. I turned the music down on a different channel. Let me know.
Test one. Mic check. Let's see. Tarnish says 100% agree with Forrest in regards to. Do you mean in regards to
maybe the FTL?
And then Forrest comments that the map's looking great. It is.
Thank you.
And I actually, funnily enough, since I backed the Kickstarter, not knowing that you were contacted to do the mapping for it, I got an update on their Kickstarter update, and I saw one of your in progress shots used in their newsletter to let everybody know that of updates.
Wait. You backed this Kickstarter?
Huh?
You never told me that.
Oh yeah, by the way, I backed this Kickstarter.
You actually did you know that I was working on this project when you backed it?
No, I backed it long before. Like it was a 5e book that I was like, nobody's gonna care that I'm getting this, but I like the look of it, so I'm gonna get it. There was a really expensive option in order where you could have an NPC of yourself put into the game, and being that this is basically like fantasy 5e Rome and shit, I was like, I really considered doing that and actually giving them information about you to put in to make an NPC of basically you in it. But it was like, I was like, I don't have like a spare grand at the moment because of everything. But
Alex, I'm learning this right now. I had no idea that Jack had backed this Kickstarter. This is genuinely, I'm learning something right now. I had no idea.
And so then when it was like, oh yes, I've been contacted by these guys to do a map, blah, 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 it's for the Age of Antiquity. I'm sitting there going like, What, the Kickstarter I backed? Yeah. I actually have mentioned it like once or twice, but I don't think it twigged.
No, it definitely didn't twig.
Yeah.
Like, at all.
Jeffrey says the music is good and my mic volume is better. So
and I've just turned Jack up a little bit more.
Okay.
I was actually I was drowning people out with my music. I think it was last week, and I think Tarnished Knight pointed it out. But the player that was actually playing the music, its volume was maxed out, and I didn't realize that. So I've minimized that. So hopefully the music is not too loud. But I knew then that with Jack being on the same channel, that he might be a little bit soft.
Forrest wants to know if it's okay to make a critique about the map, or if that's a no-no.
You absolutely can, my friend. I've got no problem with that. And you know what? Thank you for asking. Give me 2 critiques because you asked. People typically don't ask.
And Jeffrey says my mic is now perfect. Thank you.
Now, if your critique is gonna mean a major redraw, I'm not gonna promise I'm gonna do anything with it. But please, critique away. I was gonna put a graveyard somewhere too here, or some graves.
Jeffrey saying that he loves the Carthaginian harbor.
There's I wonder if I've still got it actually, just so you can kind of understand how some clients communicate. And I like this, by the way, this way of communicating. I'm gonna drag this to the top here. So the client sent me this. They said this, and honestly, if a client understands the shape of the city and the POIs that they need, we're already miles ahead, because otherwise I have to extract this information. So here they knew the POIs, the rough location where these POIs should be, and they wanted number 3, that Carthaginian style harbour. Now I do actually have to do some detailing on this harbour. You can see it's still undetailed, but that's kind of interior stuff that I'm going to come back to right here. But that was the basis of the city shape, and they got that from a real life city, which then they decided it's going to be 200,000 in size, but that's kind of where this is coming from.
So the critique from Forrest is, and it's funny enough, it's about the harbor. It was their opinion that they think that you should manually draw the circle because the circle is too perfect and it stands out a bit.
Well, let me ask you, hold on a sec. Let me ask you this. And by the way, you can critique anything on my. I didn't want that one. Hold on a sec. I wanna show you another time that I've actually done this. Let's just do a quick open here. I'm gonna open the Locatoy map. Okay, so there is another Carthage harbour. Does that look too perfect? Because that's how it's going to end up looking. I'm going to do that sort of roof detailing on it, and I think that might detract a little bit from the perfect circle. So let me know. There's no right or wrong answer. So this is kind of how it's going to end up. So it won't be so naked like that.
And Jeffrey says the circle is fabricated. It should be a nearly perfect circle, so it's good.
And by the way, that's typically the only time when I do actually start doing. You've seen me draw. I'll do a building like this. Let's just say for the sake of argument, I'll do a building like this, and I've even got videos on it where it's clearly hand drawn. But then I'll do other buildings like this, where it's more perfect, or like this. And the difference is, these are typically more expensive buildings, more perfect, like a temple or something, while these I want to be typical sort of residential. So with the harbour there, I mean, it does need the interior. All of this is going to get a lot of love on the detailing. But I did want it to look special. Perfect. I wanted it to be a perfect design. But maybe we should have that conversation when I finish the details on it, like get the roof details and everything. Because I don't think it will stick out quite so much, in all truth.
And Jeffrey is saying that the ancients knew geometry and they don't and didn't build stuff wonky. And then Julia says, I kind of like the circle as is, because a lot of historical megastructures were designed to be as perfect as possible, especially as perfection was part of social and religious aspects. That makes sense. Yeah, especially when this does get colored. I mean, things do take on a different appearance, a different feel, a different shape once colors start going in. Because you've done some maps that have had some pretty interesting buildings in the past, whether they be castles or temple areas or gardens, that type of thing. And in the black and white ink of them, they do look a little like, whoa, this looks so weird. Like, this does seem to stand out. And then as soon as it's colored, it blends in with everything going on, and it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think with the roof detail on it, particularly in the center, it's immediately not going to be quite as. I think part of the problem. By the way, I do appreciate the critique. I do appreciate you bringing it up. I've never got a problem with that, and it also gives me an opportunity to talk about some of my thought processes. This is actually kind of unfinished, and I think that's part of what we're seeing, right? Everything around it is ink. And this is suddenly not. This is suddenly very stark and white and empty. And I think once we add the roof details to that and get the colouring in, it's going to be a little bit like this area right here. I think it's going to blend in better. This does stand out right now. It does. And I think part of that is because it's just an empty circle,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that other map that you had, the other map that you had pulled up, was clearly it's obviously the same type of dock area, and it seemed like that was it blended very well with the rest of it.
I'll tell you this first. It was Forrest that brought this up originally, right? Yeah, I'll tell you what this first. Once I do the roof and everything, if it doesn't look right, I'll redraw it. I promise you that. But I do think adding the roof and the colouring is gonna add that little bit of imperfection that I think an eye is looking for.
Alex says the Roman Pantheon is in a near perfect dome. And then Julia says it looks like a giant eye, kind of when I'm waiting for it to blink. Nice. Then Forrest says, I feel like they're being put kind of on the spot here.
Oh, no, not intended. No. If anything, I'm on the spot. You know, look, guys, girls, honestly, I invite you to have commentary on what I'm drawing. Is that not part of the reason why we're hanging out together? I mean, please, anytime. And Forrest, you were very polite in even asking. I share some of these online, and some of the commentary that I get, no one asks, and it's way ruder, shall I say, what I get elsewhere. So no, I like it. I like the fact that you raise that, and you're right. Right now, it looks too perfect, and it's unfinished in amongst this entire finished area. It looks odd. You're right.
Oh, thank you for clarifying for my sake, Forrest. Forrest was saying that I can call him he, total dude. Cool. Yeah, it's one of those things where unless I know somebody in person and I know how they identify with their gender, I never want to assume online unless someone has specifically said, I am, this is what I prefer or this is what I am. And so a lot of times I find it's easier just to use they or them, that type of thing. So I appreciate that comment. Thank you. That's actually funnily enough, there's a cook that I watch on YouTube who's got he himself he's owned like restaurants and has been like a journalist, a thing, but he always closes his things. He's like guys, gals, and non-binary pals. It's like, you know, as he's signing off, when he's thanking everybody. I always thought that was a fun way to address everybody. Oh yeah, Forrest. Yeah. Thought I was referring to you as plural, and then realizing you didn't know my gender. Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's you know, especially with especially with names online, with like with Forest Roads, I have no idea if that's actually your name, or if that's a name that you came up with that you really like, or if it has some sort of connection to gaming or what have you. But it's like I have no idea, you know, on a lot of times. So nice.
Actually, Alex, if someone says I have some critique on this map and they don't wait, they've already actually been more polite than most people. Most people just jump straight in. They don't announce that they've got some critique on the map. They just lay in with what they're not happy about. Sometimes it's river shapes. Even if the river shape was given to me by a client. In fact, it doesn't really matter what it is. If it was given to me by a client, I think you've all seen me draw enough maps like right now, you know. So, you know, client gives me this. I have redrawn this forum area. I decided this should be tilted in a different direction. I got dimensions on the Roman forum. I decided that this should be on a slightly different area, and we got the dimensions on the Carthage harbor itself. We decided that it actually needed more aqueducts. So the point being is, you know, I will talk to the client about areas that I feel need to be changed, but the client is going to have some things that they want to see on the map. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do it. They're the client. I'm going to draw it. And a number of people that will just jump straight in, and they will critique without announcing that they're going to critique. They'll just come in and they'll just start laying into whatever it is. And I would say I've got to have a thick skin, but it pisses me off. It pisses me off a lot of the time. And if I say, well, the client needed this, or the client wanted this, or actually this is part of what they've got written, or even it's canon, and therefore I kind of have to, you know, stay true to the original materials. Doesn't matter. There are opinions out there now, and god damn it, you will listen to their opinion, young lady, because they're right and you're wrong. I got that, by the way, a lot on the Viking map. I'm going to pick on the Viking map so no one feels singled out. The number of people that told me that I should be drawing that in a different style, or like something more like closer to what would have been out for like 900 AD, which would have looked like shit, by the way. It would have looked terrible. It's certainly not something you'd want to put in a role-playing book. They forget who the audience is sometimes, you know.
Right.
And then the other one was that I should add a whole bunch of fictional locations. And I'm like, so who fictional locations? So the Vikings are literally putting on their map these places that don't exist, that they haven't visited. I don't think that's the way that the Vikings would work. Why am I doing this? Who is the audience at this point? And who's the client? Because the client isn't asking me to put fictional locations on this thing.
Right.
That pisses me off.
Right. It's people that don't have any idea of the conversations that have been going on or what it's for, that type of thing. Like with that example, you're sitting there going like in your head, you're probably thinking, A, they wanted a player handout that was legible and clear and concise, and B, this is a style that they approved and said that they wanted. So you should have done it like this. how about the person that hired me for the project wants it like how I did it? How about that?
And I do get that a lot. You should have done it like this. Well, I'll tell you what. Pay me, become a client, and we'll do it like that. Otherwise, shut up.
Forrest says years ago he took a life art class, and part of the class was to put your art up on the wall and suffer criticism from the other students. After that day, I always ask before giving my opinion about art. Ooh.
And you know, that A sounds pretty brutal. But B, I actually think that's a polite, and I think that's what people should do. You know, let's pick on a different medium. And Alex, I know that you said something now. We're going to get Jack to read it out. But let's pick a different medium. Painting miniatures. There are some people in the world that are just phenomenal at painting miniatures. I am not one of them. I do pretty good. There are some people in the world that are not so good. But you know what? God love you because you picked up a brush, you're going at it, and you're happy with the results, and ergo your heart's singing, and that's all I want for you in life. I want you to be happy. The number of people that will tear into someone else's work unbidden, I got no time for that. You know, people on the Reaper forums or something sharing their latest work, and some arsehole who doesn't ask. If you've got something to say, the first words out of your mouth, so to speak, the first words you type should be, are you inviting feedback? Do you want feedback? And if they don't, zip it. Zip.
Right. Especially when, you know, somebody is coming to a situation and they're clearly proud of what they've done. They're clearly like, I feel good about what I've done here. Maybe this is the best they've ever done. Maybe they worked their way up from stick figures and now they're able to draw a semblance of a person. You know, they're so happy with it because they know what the struggles that they find, and they're just like, "What do you guys think? I've been working so hard." And if everybody just comes to be like, "Oh God, this is garbage," like, "What that? Why did you do this?" You know, it's like, oh, sadness, crushing the little heart.
Right, and a lot of people do that. So I really, honestly, I appreciate anyone that even just starts with the, can I offer some feedback? Or, are you taking feedback? Bring it, man. Let's have a conversation about it. Because now it's a conversation, and it's not going to crush my little heart.
So Alex had said, actually, a river would never be that shape. And then she Googles river images and shows several real-world examples of rivers doing exactly that shape. Bugger off, matey. Nature says otherwise.
Yeah, that's a big one too. Like, Mother Nature always has a freaking exception. There's always a freaking exception. Who was it? There was someone, I think it was from Paizo or something, a creative director from Paizo, who did an analysis of the New Orleans area and the geography of it. And it's hilarious, and it's literally from that point of view, because there's so many rules broken by that geography.
That's funny. I always remember once you were doing a map for somebody, and I think this was before you were even posting your work online, but in the map, you were looking at it, and you're doing it for this client, and you're like, well, wait a minute, this river doesn't make sense because it's going up the mountain. Like, nature doesn't have rivers flow up. That's not how gravity works. That's not how the world works. And you presented it to them and they were like, fantasy magic, don't worry about it. And you were like, okay. And it was one of those things where I can only imagine if you had posted that online, you'd have so many people go, rivers don't flow like that. You could be like, yeah, I know, I'm not an idiot, I know this. And I addressed that with the client, and the client said, magic, bitches, don't worry about it.
That same map, I know the map you're talking about, so that same map had a river follow the ridge of a mountain. That was hard, man. That was hard to do.
I'm sure that was breaking your
it broke my little brain. But the client explained it as a canal. Right, and when they said that, I was like, okay, it's gonna look really odd on the map, but okay.
All right. Let's see, Julia says, kind of want to see in a campaign setting a river's flow being reversed after an earthquake. The Missouri River does it every time there's a large enough one to quake. Oh, indeed. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
No, I didn't know that either.
Huh. How confused would the players be if they're on a boat and suddenly going backwards to where they were going? That'd be pretty funny. Like, wait a minute, we're back in the town we started in. What happened? It's a whole day's travel gone. Force says, the roads are great looking. I love how their silhouettes are formed by the houses.
Yeah, in negative space. There's obviously the other way to do roads is to draw them, and I've actually mentioned this in a couple of my videos too, and my how-to, my Patreon little how-to. But just very quickly, like, you could draw the road, absolutely, that's valid, and then draw the buildings in next to it. Nothing wrong with doing it this way, by the way, and you'll see it a lot on some people's maps. Obviously, this is rough and ready. The problem with that is, I think there's two things. It starts to look more modern to me, because you've defined your road edge to such a degree. I think it starts to insinuate sidewalks, pavements, that type of thing. And so you'll actually see I only draw in the edge of the road when I'm actually trying to do that. Now one could say, well, yeah, the Romans had sidewalks and everything. It just starts to feel too modern, and I think there's too much black going down on the paper. I would rather do little flagstones like this in a softer grey. I do that in modern maps.
Right.
So I think there's a time and a place. Otherwise I don't like it. Especially, can you imagine at this scale? Like, there'd be so much black on the roads that I don't think it would work. I think it would be an eyesore. I think it'd be distracting.
Brian says, negative space technique is the best.
Thank you, Brian. I tend to think so. I like it. And you still see the roads, right? You see the roads, you see the alleyways, you see the little parks.
Yeah, exactly.
And then only where I don't have buildings to define the road edge do I then start drawing little dirt roads, etc. in.
Like your country roads there.
Like my country roads.
And Julius clarifies with the Mississippi River, not the Missouri River. Okay, cool. The reversing one.
So Alex Gray says there's a village in India called Bisar Pani, and there's a canal which flows uphill for 30 feet on its own. Explain how that works.
Holy scamoli. Brian says, even on modern maps, unless you're making large modern cities with city blocks and not really buildings. So he's saying even for modern maps, the negative space technique can work really well.
Yeah, I think if I was going to do a modern map, I would do this style, but I would probably draw the sidewalks in with maybe a softer grey. And maybe I'd actually do it mostly in colouring, and I'd have a soft grey, almost wool, going around my buildings, and then do the roads in a different format, like a darker format. I think I'd do it that way. But still using negative space.
Nice.
I am actually, ironically, working on a modern map right now, and the style is completely different. But I can't show you. Not allowed. Sorry.
NDA hammer coming down hard.
You've heard of vague booking? That's vague mapping.
Back to E3 announcements.
Yeah, talk to me about something fun in the gaming world.
I guess a couple of days ago, I don't know if it was yesterday's stream or the day before that, but new Age of Empires has been announced. Age of Empires 4. It comes out in October of this year. That should be fun.
Do I care about Age of Empires?
I don't know. It seemed like it'd be more up your street than mine.
I mean, Age of Empires is RTS, right?
I actually have no idea. Let's see. Forrest says sidewalks imply a lot of carriages and horses. No sidewalks implies a lot of foot traffic. Unless it's a modern map, in which case sidewalks indicate cars. right? See, Brian says, you could show me. I have secret clearance.
Brian, I'll probably show you actually just on Discord at some point.
And then Forrest says that Age of Empires is indeed RTS. Okay, cool.
I used to play a lot of RTS games back in the day, but the ones that I really enjoy are those RTS games that you could pause, issue your orders, and then let go. Honestly, the manicness, like StarCraft, where it's just I like to think, strategize, and actually really honestly enjoy my units and what I'm doing with them. And I tend to find the more manic it is, the more real time it is, the less I enjoy it. Doesn't matter how gorgeous the graphics are, doesn't matter how many units you got, I can't sit and enjoy the moment, and I need to be able to do that. I'm a Hearts of Iron 4. I'm a Paradox gamer, you know. I'm the one that I will hit the space bar and plan all my shit out and enjoy it and go, I'm the librarian of computer games, and the faster moving it is, nowadays I can't handle it.
Back on the river, Alex says they don't know how it works. They haven't been able to come up with a scientific explanation for it yet, but there's no pumps or devices attached to the canal at all. It just flows upwards.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
That's pretty crazy.
That's freaky. And Andrew Durston says ship building.
I'm guessing that's in for Age of Empires you're talking about? Let's see. There's a new zombie survival co-op shooter from the makers of Left 4 Dead, called Back 4 Blood.
Is it also 4 players only?
Probably. If it's the Left 4 Dead guys, you know, it's
this magic 4 people playing a game. It breaks my brain. I don't know why we're always doing 4 people.
I mean, we're not sitting around a console on the TV and you need to split the screen into 4 squares anymore. We're beyond that. We're beyond couch co-op with multiple controllers attached to one device. Get over the 4-player co-opness.
Yeah, can we move on already?
You know, make it 2 to 10, make it 2 to 8. Hell, 2 to 6. I don't care. But yeah, this magic number of 4, always 4.
I did play Left 4 Dead a lot back in the day. I did enjoy the format, but kind of not anymore, I guess.
Yeah, because they use that same model, that same style of game where it's like the waves and waves of things. They did that with the which you and I played for a little while, the Warhammer Vermintide. Remember that?
Yeah, I do. Remember it well.
It's basically just, you know, fantasy, and then swap out zombies for the Skaven, and there you go. It's like, but it was the same game basically. Yeah, because there's even a new game that seems like it's kind of similar to that too, where it's like I think it's called here we go. It's called Redfall, but it's one of those ones where it seems like it's going to be kind of like a Left 4 Dead, because there's just like 4-player characters. But I'm sitting here going again with the 4. Why 4?
And Alex, I think zombie games went quiet for a brief period of time, and I started to think that people were kind of done. That was it. We're going. They're getting a resurgence going on again. And I don't think any zombie game has quite nailed it. Not really to my satisfaction. I mean, don't get me wrong. I play Left 4 Dead a lot. I've got a lot of hours in it. But it's not a brilliant zombie game. I play it because it's a building game, and I love that.
Right. Let's see. Forza Horizon 5 was revealed, and it looks pretty as always. Those games always look really great.
Yeah, so one true fact about me, by the way, boys and girls, is I really like driving games. I don't do it so much nowadays. I used to be in a league and everything, spending hundreds of dollars just on a powered steering wheel. I really like my driving games. The early version of Forza did not really do much for me. Gran Turismo was where it was at in my books, but I think Gran Turismo is falling behind the curve, and they're also their GUI, their user experience design is terrible, like terrible, really clunky, and yeah, I think I would probably try that Forza out, Jack, over Forza, to be honest with you, depending what machine I own.
Right. And it actually is going to be, I think it might be Xbox exclusive?
Yeah, they are. Forza is Xbox exclusive.
Oh, and Gran Turismo was...
Yeah.
PlayStation.
It's PlayStation exclusive.
So yeah, that Redfall. Ooh, slightly different model. Check this out. So instead of Left 4 Dead, where it's 4 players against hordes of zombies, get this out. Redfall is going to be a 4-player hero shooter in which you have an assortment of colorful characters to choose from, each with their own unique abilities, and you fight hordes of vampiric creatures over a metropolitan city. Ooh, so much different.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks for playing.
Silly. That's silly. It's made from the people who made Dishonored, though, so that's interesting.
Dishonored was a game I could not get into,
which is
and it
so
had all
crazy
of
to
the
me.
elements for me.
Totally, it seems like it was like a high fantasy spiritual successor to Thief. I'm like so surprised that it didn't catch you like that. Sneaking around and assassinating dudes, but you have like fantasy powers because you can like bamf everywhere and you bamf into the shadows.
Did I just get a puffed off Tarnished Knight? Is that what I just got? Has he just written me off?
Which puffed? Oh, I think he's saying same with the I think it was puffed to the description, and then I think same with Dishonored out. Maybe Tarnished couldn't get into it like you. So, I let's see other announcements. I guess that Plague Tale is getting a sequel called Plague Tale Requiem.
Do I know Plague Tale?
That was the one where it's like you play like a girl and like her either her son or her little brother, and there's like the rats have taken over. It's like the rat plague in like, I don't know if it's actually real world England or if it was like.
I don't think I played that one, did I?
No, neither one of us did. But it looked good, but we never played it. One that they did play, but is getting a sequel, is actually The Outer Worlds. And neither one of us finished it, but we did play it pretty heavily.
That's good, and that's good because Bethesda needs competition, and it's going to take them a while to catch up, but Bethesda needs competition, so that's good. I'm excited by that.
Nice. Yeah, it says here that they had a review trailer with nothing tangible to show, just the pre-rendered cinematic, but based on evidence, it seems like the game is shaping up to be just as witty as its acclaimed predecessor. So, cool. Oh, and Tarnish says agreeing with the zombie game. Oh yeah, agreeing with the zombie game. Same with for the Dishonored. Okay, cool. It's not a zombie game. The enemies are vampires, still hordes of undead wanting to eat part of me. Exactly.
Yeah, Dishonored felt, I'm going to struggle with the language here, I think, but Dishonored felt thin. Like, Thief felt deep. Thief, at least back in the day, its stealth system was real, I truly felt like I was sneaking, I was hiding in shadows, and the AI had some kind of intelligent sight that you had to avoid. Dishonored felt like it was a puzzle game. Like, the guards had a very set pattern that they were walking on, and but it was set. And so it was more about figuring out their pattern and defeating it So it felt like a 2D game in that respect, and I know that's not doing it justice because Dishonored had a 3D aspect to it, but it felt way more like that. You know those mobile games where you just trace out the path that you want to do, or what pins you want to pull out to defeat the puzzle. That's how Dishonored felt to me. It didn't feel deep enough on the AI.
And Julia's saying Dishonored did feel a bit too linear.
Right, linear. And in fact, I think Dishonored, if I'm remembering the correct game, Dishonored was the game that wasn't meant to be linear, and it was meant to be, defeat this defeat this in any number of different directions. And it's like, no, you're kind of on a rail cart here, We're just basically... They didn't even have to be soldiers, they were just pillboxes moving around. It could be just mindless shapes moving around. And what was that one, Jack, that I stopped playing on the rest of us, The Last of Us, right?
Yeah, The Last of Us, yeah.
That was the same way. The Last of Us was the same way. Good story, great characters, well acted, but The Last of Us was the same way. The enemy was just mindless in their patterns, and it was just even your partner could walk right in front of them and they were never going to react to it. It was too superficial in that respect. Dishonored had that superficiality, if that's a word. I don't know. It is now.
Indeed.
Join me tomorrow for more Alyssa Faden bitches.
Let's see, there's a Halo thing. Don't really care about Halo.
Yeah, there's a title that I've just... After the first one, don't care. Just don't care. And I know it's been a massive franchise, so if you're fans out there, truly, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're getting even more of the same, but... Just...
Games Played Poorly says, that's why I was disappointed in the Fable games. They tried to sell it as an open world, but it was very linear. I agree 100%.
100% on that. You're right. And I remember them selling it as this massive open thing. Kind of wasn't.
Superficiality expialidocious, says Force Roots. Let's see, Alex says, here's a beautiful world that you want to explore. Sweet. Here's the maze map of the bits you can of only the bits you can go to. Oh, not so sweet. I actually remember that in which that's just how the game was, but I always remember that in it was one of the Assassin's Creeds. And the whole thing with the Assassin's Creeds is like you're living out like part of a person in the past's life, like at least the early games, that's what it was. So you were like accessing these memories, and so it'd be like, it's like you get to Rome in like Assassin's Creed, and it's like you can explore everywhere in Rome until suddenly you come against a digitalized barrier, and it's like, no, you can't explore any farther. But it's like, but the Colosseum's right there. I want to go to the Colosseum, and it's like, nope. You can only access the memory chip that you're a part of. And it's like, oh, God. So you totally made me think that I can explore this entire city. At least in Odyssey, it was like, hey, you want to explore Athens? Knock yourself out. Because it was obviously they had changed up the game at that point, what they wanted to do with it. But in the early Assassin's Creeds, it was like this, this illusion of open worldness. It was like, okay, yeah, you have an open world, but in this area of the map only. You're like, oh, man.
Julius just typed the word there, and I'm not going to try and say it because it's driving me insane just looking at the word.
Supercalifragilistic specifically.
That's one thing. If I'm going to be honest about my taste in games, I am a bit of a sucker for a good strategy game, but I need deep, I need depth. It can't be too shallow. But open world games, like games like Red Dead, Grand Theft Auto, anything that's and of course all of the Assassin's Creeds, any of these will make me sit up and take notice, and I'm probably going to put some hours into them. I love open world games in a big way. That's my big weakness.
Games Play Poorly says Assassin's Creed used the but science as an excuse for a lot of the things that didn't feel quite right in their games.
Yeah, I think they threw that out a few versions ago now. They're just like, we know what you like. Let's just give you more fighting and jumping over rooftops.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was Origins where they finally were like, screw the science.
Yeah, now it's got to a point where if like you're playing one of the games and it actually does one of the jump to the current day and starts doing the sciencey stuff, I'm like, oh man, I want to go back to the Valhalla bit.
Right. Well, to tell you the truth, I think all the games were like that. Even in the early titles, when you would be like, I forget the name of the character that's like in the real world in the early Assassin's Creed games. But yeah, if you left like Ezio, you'd be like, oh no, go back to Ezio, man. I don't care about schmuck in a pod. Get out of here. Take me back to Italy, please.
Yeah, I still need to play the Brotherhood one. I've been told that's Brotherhood was the London one, right?
Yeah, where you the two characters. That you
I gotta go
go
play that at some point.
I had heard while it was better from the ones like leading up to it. I don't know if they had quite cracked the code of like the thing yet, so I'd be interested when you do play it to get your opinion on it. Alex too commenting that she likes sandbox games. Yeah.
Sandbox. That's the phrase I was looking for. Sandbox.
Mm.
That's one of the appeals of Skyrim and the likes, especially with mods. And Fallout 4. I'm going to be honest. I was a bit of a Fallout 4 sucker. I do like that game.
Mm.
I want to be able to sort of honestly. I want to be able to get in game. Especially when you're running like an alternative start mod and stuff. You played maybe the main game once through or twice through. And just looking at something on the horizon and saying, I want to go there. I love games where you can do that. Even if it's not a very good idea and you're probably going to die. I like complete freedom. And assuming that there is something on the map to keep me entertained. I love that. I'm going to go that direction and I just want to see what's there. Love that. Love being able to do that. Jack and I played Skyrim back in the day, and it gave ourselves a rule of no fast travel. Anyway, just no fast travel.
Yep.
And the number of things you would discover just walking from A to Z, that was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Jack, is there anything else from E3?
Let's see. There's some expansions coming out for some games. I guess Grounded is getting an update. Fallout 76 is getting some expansions. Yay. The Sea of Thieves is still going. That's still a thing. Sea of Thieves is the company Rare is collaborating with Disney, and they're doing a Pirates of the Caribbean crossover.
Sea of Thieves is still going?
Apparently. I guess they showed some stuff for Far Cry 6, which is cool.
Oh, that's not released yet?
No, it got pushed back. It kept getting pushed back, so...
You see, I'm probably going to get that game. I'm probably going to play that.
Yeah, we've had the last couple of Far Cry's have been pretty good for us. Now I know we played 5 together. I'm wondering if it's going to have a co-opness to it, like
I think the last few of theirs has.
Co-op campaign, I should say. Tarnished Knight says, Alex, that time when Dungeon Siege, then she says, when I wandered in the opposite direction of the quest zone and found the bear cave with that magic armor. Oh, indeed.
So what's the Jeffrey going? Is Disney? Oh no, what's that in connection to?
The collaboration with the Sea of Thieves is doing a Disney crossover. So then they said Disney. Oh no, the problem is with when Disney touches something, franchises die. I do know that there are a lot of people who believe that. I'm one of the ones who's typically pleased with what they do. But I understand that a lot of people are not happy when Disney gets involved in projects, whether it be an IP that they buy or a company that they acquire or collaborations. So I get it. Let's see. Julia says there's currently a lot of talk about a Jurassic Park Fast and the Furious crossover, and some of the actors in both franchises for it. That would be so silly.
No.
I mean, the Fast and the Furious movies are so silly at this point anyways. Why not? I think aren't the people making like the Jurassic World movies, aren't they like trying to keep it quote unquote like serious though? Like the Fast and the Furious people are making it ridiculous. I mean, they're like superheroes at this point, aren't they? Forrest says there's a trailer for that Pirates of the Caribbean Sea of Thieves crossover. It at least looks good, he says. So I couldn't get into the idea of Sea of Thieves just because it was all PvP MMO, and I'm not a super big fan of MMOs personally, and not only that, I'm vehemently opposed to PvP in pretty much anything. I mean, I'm not even a biggest fan of board games where like the whole point is to screw your opponent over. We've had that discussion many times in the show where Alyssa's talked about, why we stopped playing non-co-op board games because everybody just got pissed at each other. Funnily enough, Jeffrey, yeah, actually on our Saturday, quote unquote game that we had, our in-person game with our friends, we actually brought up Foundation. Jeffrey says, waiting for that Apple TV Foundation series that's going to come out later this year. Some 80 episodes.
80 episodes. Holy cow!
Wow. Do they have a plan for? Does their agreement go for? Like I'm guessing if it's like 10 episodes a season, that's like 8 seasons. Even if it's awful, it'll still be good because Asimov. There you go.
So Forrest, the thing is with me, I think I'm just the wrong age group now, and I don't. That almost implies my age group has got no interest in battle royales. I did all of my multiplayer online gaming, honestly, back in Battlefield 1942. Remember that? And Counter-Strike. So we're talking, 20 years ago now? Something like? Maybe close to that, 18, 20 years ago. And I enjoyed the crap out of it. I would play multiplayer, versus all of the time and have an absolute freaking blast. But somewhere along the line, my tastes changed. So I can watch someone playing a battle royale and enjoy watching it. but I can't play him anymore. I just doesn't tickle that little fancy for me, and I don't think I'm good enough. I'm just not good enough for it. And if I'm gonna do a multiplayer, I would want to be more of a part of a team, you know. So more like a Battlefield type of format instead of PUBG.
There's like a squad versus a squad.
Yeah, I've watched people play PUBG. It looks great. I just don't think I don't think my little heart can take it anymore. I find it too stressful. I think that's what it is. The adrenaline just like will probably end me.
Older people are smarter than young people, and that's more important than Twitch skills. Trying to say, he did all his PvP in WoW, and then Jeffrey saying that they too got some Battlefield 1942, which is actually funny because there's Battlefield 2042 that's out or going to be coming out.
I actually watched one of my favorite YouTubers talking about that last Friday. Funny enough, I think it must have been last Friday, and that's one that looks entertaining. That's actually a game that I wish I could play. I just don't think I can handle the stress of it.
Right.
Sounds weak, but it just I get stressed on them. I just get stressed playing them.
Yeah, and it definitely, I definitely think there's a different, kind of like what, as Forrest said, lucky for us, there are enough video games for all of us, unlike the Atari 2600 days. Exactly. Because I think that's, I don't like, I don't have like a very big competitive bone in my body. If I have a level of competitiveness, it's very, very small. It's a bit of cartilage in my nose. That's my competitive bone in my body, it's the cartilage in the tip of my ear. It's very, very small, very minimal amount. And so for me, it's like, so I wouldn't even be stressed like you would, Alyssa, because you are a little bit of a competitive person, and you want to use your skills and your smarts and that type of thing. And, but so you're kind of, your heart's pumping, you got the adrenaline going, you're hunting people down and trying not to be caught and killed yourself. And that's, and so I can get it where you're like, I don't know if I could take that, because that stress of that feeling. While me, I wouldn't have that same feeling. I'm just more like, I just don't enjoy the I don't get any fun from it. The fighting other people and their skills, because maybe it's because other people are competitive and they are running around and they're doing these crazy trick shots, or they're sniping me from across the map, or what have you. It's like, I don't know, there's like, I don't get, and so if I do well in it, it's like I don't get any type of, since I'm not competitive, I don't get like a, yeah, I did it, got him. I don't get like a sense of like accomplishment or joy or adrenaline. So for me, it's not even like that. For me, it would be, I'm not like necessarily like, stressed or what have you. It's, or like, I would be sad if my skills didn't match up to the amount of people. I'm just sitting there like going like, I'm just bored. There's no story. There's no characters here. There's no plot that I'm following. This just feels like the whole battle royale-ness of the battle royales just are like meh to me. Not the type of game I go for.
Tell me about your Eve online prank tarnish night. And Jeffrey, with the main thing that stresses me out with Fortnite is a number of horrible fashion choices players have access to for their avatars.
So that would be a fun thing to do. That is one of the things I'm always sad about in these games, where it looks like you can customize the way your character looks, like in a crazy amount. And I'm like, that's so fun. Do that in a single player game, please. There's so many single player games out there that have the crappiest customization for characters.
I know that we're going a little long here, by the way. I do want to hear this story about Tarnished Knight, and then I think there will be a good stopping point, because we're still working on this tomorrow, which means that we're actually now just working on the interior. So maybe we'll actually work on the Carthage Harbour tomorrow. Tarnished Knight. So someone in system chat was whinging about the game being slow. I said over the same chat, just type in run QWERTY. It will speed up the game. Oh no. While holding control. What? Oh, and Control G shortcuts it instantly shut down the program. You scam. That was the thing when, I forget what generation of Xboxes it was, but you could shut down the Xbox with a voice command, and so people would do that over multiplayer games and shut down other players' systems. I played EVE online for a while. I actually got a little bit obsessed with it, so I stopped playing it when I recognized it in myself. First time I killed another player in that game, my heart was beating out of my chest, literally. Yeah, I think tomorrow we're going to work on the Carthage Harbour a little bit. And I think I'm going to fix the aqueducts. We're going to get the aqueducts dialed in somehow. Because I haven't done that yet. And it's kind of overdue.
Julia said, my main issue with Fortnite is all the shotgun jumping players who can get really close for a one-shot kill while jumping back and forth, making it really hard to hit them, especially if they're using aim bots. Oh, and then Jeffrey says, War Gamers, where are you at? Dawn of War 2. And then clarifying, well, Dawn of War 2 is actually more of an RTS, but it's edging closer to wargaming. And then Tarnished Knight says, faction, ? Caldari forever.
What, my faction? In EVE? No, it couldn't be, no.
I think faction in Dawn of War.
Okay, I was going to say, because there weren't factions in EVE unless they were player-made. I don't think I've played Dawn of War. I don't think.
Oh, and the Eve prank where he control Q'd the people to auto quit Alex, because I guess he did it and more than one person did it. Aranta's, I'm guessing that was the server or the location or what have you, population went from 97 to 23 almost instantly.
Oh.
And I guess they said that a lot of people basically got in the chat pretty quickly afterwards, about 30 seconds later, I'm guessing with lots of expletives and raging.
That's a little bit like, though, you know, when you get memed and someone tells you to recharge your iPhone, put it in the microwave for 60 seconds. You know, if you're gonna do it, then can't really complain about the result.
Let's see. Forrest says, "Can I ask an RPG question? I've got a feeling you guys have played way more RPGs than me."
Yeah, go for it, man.
Oh, and Arenta was the system. Okay, cool.
I think we've got a channel full of RPG players here right now.
Jeffrey saying microwaving their cell phone might actually be a good decision for some people. I agree.
Yeah, if you're microwaving your cell phone, you are probably exactly the target audience for someone microwaving their cell phone. And yeah, it's gonna do you good.
Okay, so here's the question. Okay, have any of you guys ever played an RPG with good rules for flight?
Oh, now there's a question. Alex, if you're still around, good flight rules in an RPG, huh?
Brian's saying, I used to get people out of a full AOL chat room by telling them to press a combination of keys. Ooh, AOL chat rooms. I remember those days.
Brian, you ever played a game that's got flight in it? Good flight rules?
Let's see. Forrest says, I'm going to be running a game next month for D&D, and it's going to focus on airship combat. I'm looking for fun rules for air combat. And then Jeffrey says, AD&D had good rules for flight. Maneuverability Class A.
Oh, I remember the maneuverabilities. Oh, that's a blast from the past. I completely forgot about that.
And then Brian says GURPS. And then Jeffrey says, oh god, AOL chat room RPGs. I resemble that cringe. Yeah, chat room role-playing. I remember that.
So just Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, is that all we've got?
And AD&D and GURPS have been the two thrown out there.
I'm not familiar with the GURPS one.
Alex says the only one she can say with certainty is heavy gear. And then Tarnished Knight mentioned Mech Warrior movement. I'm not familiar with flight.
Yeah, it had the whole aerospace book.
Oh, okay.
I mean, hex driven, but yeah, it did.
So AD&D, GURPS, Mech Warrior, and Heavy Gear are the four things that are being thrown out there first.
I am gonna hit save here. We motored on that one tonight. That is looking pretty good. So tomorrow, Carthage Harbour and Aqueducts, and then off camera I'm gonna work on those blank areas of the city. This is gonna be done in this next week. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. So I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to work on this just a little bit, and Wednesday we're going to do the cosmology of RPGs some more. So I do want to thank everyone for hanging out tonight. My God, it was actually a fun discussion. I had a blast. Jack, thanks for being here telling us about E3.
Of course, yeah, the tiny bit that I mentioned from time to time.
But that's good conversation with good friends. So all of you, thank you so much. Huge amount of love to you. I'm back tomorrow, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, so join me while we noodle on this map some more, and that's just as dirty as it sounds. So until then, everyone have a great evening, and I will see you all on the flip side. Much love to